We go. Awesome. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. A few things before we jump in. I did work on putting together a curriculum for you guys that have the different page numbers and the topics for each of the modules. I hope you find it helpful. And as you can see, it's not linear. So for the different topics, there are, it jumps around a little bit in the PMBOK. So there are certain sections that, are in the front of the book, and they jump to the back and so on. So um, I'm hoping that with the slides that the PMI provides, it will help put the ideas together for you guys in a more succinct way. And speaking of that, in a little bit here, I'll show you, I put together a Word document that will hopefully help you grasp, I'd say 80% of the agile principles, but I put it together in kind of like a day in a life of, so that um, as you encounter the terms, hopefully it will stick better. So do let me know. So all right, well, let us go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen here. All right, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me know too if my audio is okay. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Thumbs up? All right, cool. All right. So for today, we're gonna continue on and we'll tackle how to build a shared understanding about a project. So one of the one of the mistakes I think that project managers, sponsors, and leaders do is that, you know, you've been working on this idea of a project for so long before it gets finally approved, right? And so by the time it gets approved, you're kicking it off, you're introducing it to stakeholders, but you don't go back to the basics of explaining it from step one, because you've been trying to get this thing approved for months and months and months now, right? So in your mind, it seems like everyone should know this, right? Because we've been working on it. But that's obviously not always the case. So part of making sure that your project goes well is a shared understanding of why are we doing this? What are the benefits? What are the problems we're trying to solve? Who's going to benefit from it? And how do we measure it, right? How do we measure the actual benefit? So if you can get folks 80% on the same page with that, you're off to a really good start. Okay. So um, a shared understanding about the project is one of the most crucial things before you get to chart, before you get to anything else. Like, why are we doing this, right? And what's in it for the team? What's in it for the stakeholders? So for today, we're going to be talking about a few deliverables, the vision statement, um, the the XP metaphor. I'll explain that in just a little bit here. Same thing with product box exercise. We'll actually have an exercise for you guys here in a bit. Charter. When you guys hear the word charter, what comes to mind? Project charter.
Like a chart or a
What was
list.
it, Francisco?
A chart, a list.
A list of,
Well, and the term is at the beginning of the project, right?
yeah, beginning of the project. That yes. Anything else, guys, when you hear the word charter?
Like birth certificate, thing, the beginning, start.
Start. Yep. So slide 112 here will have the official definition, but yeah, charter is the document that authorizes. So if you're taking down notes for today, first term to write down is project charter, and underneath that, write down the word authorize, and then write down the word high level. So it authorizes the project manager to start the project, and it also provides high level, that's a keyword, high level information about it. So high level scope, high level members, so on and so forth. So for the test, charter authorizes the PM, circle that word authorize, and then it provides high level, circle the word high level. All right, and project plan, this has, this is a amalgamation, if you will, of different plans, right? So you put the resource plan, put the schedule, you put all the different plans together, and that becomes your project plan. And we'll go through, not today. I think in module 3, we'll have all of the different components of the project plan. And also with Michelle, in version 6, there's also a really nice breakdown of what all are, is included in the project plan. And don't don't feel overwhelmed, because in real life, you probably won't have all of those components. You'll have bits and pieces of it. But for the test, it'll be important to understand what is included, what are the components, and we'll get to that a little later. Kickoff meeting, this is when you, as you guys mentioned earlier, start of the project. So this is where you gather different stakeholders, and we officially are kicking this off, right? For construction projects, this might be where you've seen those photos where folks have the shovel, like they put in the ground, right? Or there's like a ribbon cutting, like, oh, we're about to start this project here. So for us, for the most part, it's a meeting where for the first time, the key stakeholders are gathered together, and that's where you explain the vision, what we're trying to do, and that's your kickoff meeting. Brainstorming. Anyone remember what we talked about in terms of brainstorming from our last session?
Where you sit down, discuss, and try to determine what you want to do with this project, or try to get everyone's information or ideas about the project.
That's right. And T-shaped skills. This one is not a term we use every day, so extra points for those who can remember what T-shaped skills mean.
Kind of like having an area of expertise, I want to say.
So area of expertise, so there's 2 lines in the letter T, right? One is horizontal, right? The top of the letter T, and one is vertical, the one that goes down. So when you're talking about expertise, is that the horizontal line or the vertical line? You're going deep.
It would be vertical then, right?
That's the vertical line, yeah. So bonus points for anyone that can remember, what is the term that we use for someone that isn't deep but wide? So it's the
Generalist.
generalist. Yes. Was that Victor?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good job, Victor. So for everyone, sorry, for your notes, T-shaped skills, so there's 2. One that goes down the vertical line, that's called the specialist or expert. And then the horizontal line, the one that goes across, this is your generalist. And is one better than the other?
I think it depends on what you need them for.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. So both of them are important, and they have different expertise depending on what you need them to answer. So when would a generalist be better than a specialist?
Specialist would be someone that is smart or an SME in that area, in a certain area. Where a generalist, I guess, would be someone that has a wide range of thought about a lot of different things.
Right. So when would you use one versus the other? For the most part,
Strategic. Oh, I was gonna say strategic planning and goals or something like that.
Which one would you use, Alicia?
Maybe budget, I want to say. I don't know.
I would use a generalist if they're high level. right? They don't have the intimate knowledge of how the work is actually done. So if I wanted to map out a process step by step, I would want my specialist, right? But if maybe we're talking about we're I don't know, designing how the project's going to go or something a little bit higher level. Maybe it's a stakeholder, what are the requirements? What's the end goal? What does that look like?
You're absolutely right. So write this down. So generalist typically is more involved in the beginning of the project. This is someone who understands how different pieces come together, the connective tissue, if you will. So they're usually more helpful in the beginning of the project. And as you get down to more specifics, going back to what you said, Kenny, then you'll bring in the specialist, right? So if you're trying to figure out, for example, it's a say construction project, you're trying to figure out the actual, measurement of drill bits and whatnot, you're going to need a specialist for that, not a generalist. So generalist typically is used more in the beginning. Specialist is more middle to end. But again, these are just, um, high level principles, if you will, because a generalist can help all throughout, and obviously a specialist can help all throughout, but they're typically used in the beginning of the project.
I kind of akin it to how on my team, customer care, the help desk. So,
Okay.
Our staff get the initial calls, and it could be a wide variety of different things, and they have enough knowledge to help in most cases. But then there's we have the other teams, and I see them as the specialist, right? So we kick it to them when we can't help out or we need more specific information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's actually a really good example, Victor. So a lot of the first touch points, right, in any system is usually a generalist, right? You're coming into, let's say, a hotel. The receptionist, is that a generalist or a specialist?
Journalist.
Generalist.
Generalist, right? Because they can point you to, where's where's the restaurant or cafeteria, where's the gift shop, the rooms, the bathrooms, and all of that. But if you're asking about what's the special for the day in the hotel, in the restaurant, sorry, then the receptionist will tell you, well, when you get to the restaurant, there will be a server there that can help you with the specials for the day, right? So that's a beautiful example of generalist versus specialist. Everyone with me? So you need both. You need both. So I want to emphasize that because in the test, there's a tendency to try to give more emphasis to the specialist to throw you off, but you actually need both. And one is not better than the other. They just have different uses depending upon where you're at in the project. Cool. So as I mentioned, beginning of the project, you want to have a clear vision, right? What is it that we want to get out of this? And one of the ways that I try to help groups come up with a vision is actually to have them, well, look into the future. So let's say Kyle. So Kyle, let's say that you're in charge of building a new orthopedic center, right? And how would you describe that vision to people that, will be helping you along the way? This is our first kickoff. Give me a vision of the latest orthopedic center, according to Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I would talk about the, just things to inspire people, right? Like we're building a new orthopedic center with updated, medical equipment. We're building it in an area that doesn't have the service, just to try to rally everybody, behind it because it's a lot of work to start a project.
So I'll give you a little secret, Kyle. Say all of that in the present tense. Imagine yourself, it's 2030 and you're walking through the center. Now try it again.
yeah, we're gonna have, the latest equipment on the floors, or, the best equipment there. We're gonna have a new doctor, medical group, some of the best experts in the area, helping our patients, helping people who haven't been served before, and this brand new facility, where these members or these people just haven't had the opportunity to receive this type of medical care before.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Now, I'm gonna stick with this for a little bit because I want you to see the differences in as you add more detail. So, Jennifer Mansourian. So, Jennifer, imagine yourself walking through this orthopedic center and you are with someone on the phone, right? It's just audio. And you're trying to explain to this person, let's say it's Lizette that's on the phone, and you're trying to explain to Lizette what you're seeing. Walk me through it. You're walking in the orthopedic center. What do you see? Explain it to Lizette.
And Liz, who is Lizette to me?
Just a friend that
Okay.
you're talking to.
Just wondering, am I trying to sell her
Just
something?
pretend that you like Lizette just for the next 5 minutes.
I'm walking through this new orthopedic center, and everything is new and clean. They have all the latest technology. The receptionist is really nice. They greeted me really, really friendly when I walk through. I see a lot of exam rooms with a lot of space.
Okay.
That's all I can think of for now.
Okay.
I'm
That's good.
convinced.
That's
I'll
good.
go there.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I think
So,
clean was the highlight.
Yeah.
so Lizette, with that short description, how do you feel about this new center?
I'm excited to
Excited.
continue.
What are the things that jumped out at you?
Like she said, clean. The reception was very nice. New. What else did you say? New. Did you say new technology?
Yeah,
Or
equipment. Yeah.
new equipment? Yeah, I would
And a
definitely.
lot of examiners, right? A lot of them.
Mhm.
So the reason I wanted you guys to go through this exercise is because when you're setting a vision, it's more than just seeing it. It's about engaging as many senses as possible. All right, we're gonna give it another go and check this out. So, guys, we are going to be building the orthopedic center of the future. This will be the center that you would want your friends and loved ones to go through. As you walk in, everything is touchless. The door seemingly just opens up and you're greeted with this whiff, the same type that you would get in high-end hotels. It's an amazing scent. I want to say um, floral, but not too overwhelming. It smells very clean. You look at the floor, it's clean, but it's not too bright. The same that you get in hospitals. It has nice warm light. To the left, you'll have this amazing receptionist area where they have flavored water. One is cucumber, one is melon, and it's hot outside. It's just perfect. It's right there waiting for you. You come in, you ask, about your relative, where they're at, and the receptionist provides you with this amazing tracker that you can look at, and you can just look at it and you know exactly where they are in the process. Never seen this before. And they also have an amazing digital dashboard. You look up, let's say your relative's number is 113, and there it is. You can see where 113 is. Um, but it doesn't feel like you're in a hospital or an ambulatory center. It feels closer to a wellness spa, right? There's this waterworks that's coming from the wall, and it's so relaxing. Even though you know that, your grandma is having surgery, for some reason, you're not as stressed. You feel relaxed. And every now and then someone comes up and tells you, "Hey, Lizette, can I get anything for you? Coffee, tea?" We also have, a cafeteria, just a few corners down, that has fresh pastries, fresh juices, and a few other, treats that you might want while waiting, for your loved one. And the seats are comfortable. It's not leather. It's some sort of vegan leather type, but it's still really comfortable and plush, and the seats are comfortable. You can actually, read a book, uh, your iPad, and it's not too overwhelming. And I feel that if this is how I'm experiencing this and I'm just a visitor, I can only imagine how much care they put into the actual ORs and the actual treatment centers. So I'm really excited to share this orthopedic center with you guys. How was that as you're listening to it?
Descriptive.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
it sounds relaxing. Like, hey, I want to go.
It
Right.
creates trust.
They don't even have a broken bone, right? Um,
Sounds
so
expensive.
To me,
is,
Yeah, I thought so. I thought so too. It did.
will my insurance cover this? That's a good one, Nick.
Ian, it created trust.
Created trust. Oh, wow. Wow.
You
Nice.
describe trust to me, like I can let go.
You
can-
can let go. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing, Cinderella. But did it invite you to come on this journey and not just visualize, but experience it with me? As I
Mhm.
was talking about the sense that as you walked in the door, where did you get a sense like, oh man, this is a pretty clean place, right?
I literally thought of the cucumber water before you said the cucumber water.
That's amazing, Victor. But as you can see, an amazing vision holds you in. It's inviting. It attracts you. It lets you lean in and wants you to learn more, right? And so a vision is I would say even more emotional than it
Yeah.
is logical, right?
Right.
Because the goal of a vision is not just to let you know that this is the right thing to do, but it excites you to do it, right? Because that's what's going to carry you throughout the project. Because as you can imagine, building out this orthopedic center, it's going to be a lot of heartache, heartbreak, frustration, as with any construction project. But if everyone can still think of that cucumber water, right, Victor? And just have that in mind that this is the end goal, this is the experience, you can power through all of the setbacks. So something you can do on Monday, for the projects that you're working on or projects that you will be working on, start to visualize, right? Like what does go live look like? How will this impact the people using it? And try to be as descriptive as possible, right? And that will help you, um, really, it serves as a true north, right? So that all the decisions that you make throughout the project, you can filter it through this vision, right? Is it going to bring me closer to what we all envisioned during the project kickoff? Does that make sense? And if not, let's figure out, how we can get back to that vision, that we created and shared amongst each other. So, all right, project charter. We talked about this. Again, keywords. It authorizes, right? And it's also a high-level document. So it has high-level scope, high-level timelines, high-level resources, and risk, budget, and so on and so forth. And this is where what you use to build out the rest of your plans, right? So these are things that can be included, right? So project manager, sponsors, objectives, so on and so forth. Now, here's one thing that I want you to keep in mind as you're putting together a charter. It's called the man on the street rule, which is, let's assume that your project charter fell out of your suitcase, right? You're rushing through, and Kelly, you're at the corner of Wilshire and what's Westwood, and then you dropped it, right? You're rushing through and you drop this document, and then a man on the street picks it up and then doesn't know anything about what you do, and they read through it and they have a good enough idea about the project that you're embarking on, right? So if you can get it to that level where a man on the street can pick it up, or a woman, and read through it and they have an idea, then you've done a good job. One of the common pitfalls that people have in creating a charter is they go too technical too soon, right? They go too specific too soon. They throw in a lot of jargon. And so unless you're in the same at the same level of expertise as the project manager or the people that put the charter together, you feel isolated and excluded right away. Does that make sense? So the charter should, just as the vision statement, it should be inviting. It should excite. It should give you an idea what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do this, what problem we're trying to solve, and make it as high level as possible so that man on the street can pick it up and have an idea. They won't grasp everything, especially if it's like, super technical, but they have an idea as to why you're trying to do this. So project overview statement. So this is usually like your executive summary, right? So it communicates the intent, the vision. Again, it's short. It captures the objectives, opportunities. So you can include this in the beginning, right, of your documents. And again, the whole goes, again, think of it as an executive summary where it gives you a nice enough, like a paragraph or two that captures, right, the intent and the vision. All right. We're gonna jump into the different types of projects, traditional, agile, hybrid, when we get to module 2. So I'll get back to this when we finish this module. We won't have a few more slides. All right. So again, meeting the project finally got approved. You're pulling people together, and now we're about to start the project. So this is the project kickoff, right? And so in the kickoff, you want to be able to explain same thing that we've been talking about all day. Not all day, but for the past 30 minutes. The context of the project. And what the context means is where does this project fit in into everything we're trying to do for the organization? So let's say for UCLA, where does this fit in into your department goals? Where does this fit in into the enterprise goals? And how does this help move those goals forward, right? So that's the context. Who are the team members that are going to be part of this? How are they going to be affected by it? We talked about the vision statement. You can include a team charter at this point, just high level. However, the actual, digging into a lot of the details of the charter, you can do that in a separate meeting because you want this to be interactive, right? You want the team members to say, hey, this is what I want us to do. This is how we communicate. And also, we'll talk about user story writing in just a second here, and these terminologies that are more part of the agile way of doing things. So with that, I'm actually going to switch. Let me stop sharing here. Gonna switch screens. I put this together last night, so please let me know if it's helpful. So, and let me know if you can see a Word document.
Yes.
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 Perfect, perfect. So I was thinking about this yesterday, and I wanted to present these ideas in such a way that if this is the first encounter you have with Agile, that not only will you understand the terms, but you'll also understand how it's related to all the other terms, right? And so I wanted to do like a day in the life of an Agile project, right? Well, beginning initiation all the way to closure. And what are the, the most common terms that we're going to run into as we go along, okay? So the first one, right, is initiation. Why are we doing this, right? Why are we doing this project? And we talked about the vision already, right? Clear inspirational description to get people excited and to also let them know what we're trying to do. An example would be, creating kind of a, not really, think of it as a patient experience platform where patients can get a lot of their health information without having to call the call center and get information about it. So, so that would be an example, kind of like a more robust patient portal, right? So we all know about patient portals today, but think of it as a patient portal that has a lot more features to it and features that pull them in and want them to stay in it. For example, um, more educational videos that are actually, more interesting and higher quality of production. So let's say that that's what we're trying to do. So so that is part of the vision. One thing I forgot to mention is, so there's two components of the vision. There's the first component is what we're trying to build, what we're trying to do. And so that's what's in scope, right? And the second part is um, what's not included. So we were talking earlier about the orthopedic center, and it's pretty clear that we're not building a renal center or a cancer center, right? So what's in scope is just orthopedic center. So you want to make sure that you, if needed, you call out what's not in scope. So let's say for this orthopedic center, we're actually not creating a new parking lot, right? We're using the same parking lot that the hospital has. So that's something that's good to call out so that people know that, okay, we're just, constructing this building, but we're actually not including a separate parking lot, right? So what's in scope and what's also out of scope is very important as you start putting this vision together. We talked about the project charter. So here's another term, product backlog. Okay, so if you're writing down, so actually, if you want to write it down so you can remember it, that's fine. But I'll send this document out to you guys as we go on break, and I'll CC Michelle so she can put it in your Google Classroom as well. So product backlog, this is a list of the features, functions, requirements that we need to put together and build for this project. For example, secure login, right? If you're going to be getting into a patient portal, you want to have secure login. A second feature might be appointment scheduling. Third feature might be lab results. Fourth feature might be billing, so on and so forth. So product backlog is everything that you need, right, to build to complete what we said in the vision statement, right? So this is just a nice way of capturing things. And notice how When I say secure login, let me call on Carol.
Yes.
So Carol, you might not know all the ins and outs about what goes into creating a secure login, but you have an idea of what to expect, right?
Correct.
Right. So one of the main features of Agile is the user story, which you try to capture the backlog in more visually, more um, eh, in ways that can easily be communicated, right? So even if you don't know project management, even if you're not an IT person, if I say, for example, Curlin. So Curlin, if I say, we're building this patient portal and it has an appointment scheduling feature, right? Even if if you're not working in healthcare or in IT, what would you envision when you hear the feature appointment scheduling? What can you do?
What do you mean, what can I do?
So when you hear appointment scheduling, what comes to mind?
Patience.
So as a patient, so let's say you're a patient at UCLA and we tell you, hey, here's a link to a patient portal, and you'll be able to log in and you'll have appointment scheduling capabilities. So what comes to mind?
I'll be able to schedule my own appointment by myself.
There you go, right? So you'll be able to schedule your own appointment. So the how to that, all the components that goes into it, you'll have more details, but the product backlog captures it in such a way that you can visualize what is it that that feature or requirement will be. So as you can see here, it's secure login, appointment scheduling, lab results, billing, maybe even a wayfinder, right? So you can find your way to the lab. And so all of these things are part of the initiation phase, right? So vision, the charter, the product backlog. So now we move into the next phase, which is the planning, right? All right, so that sounds awesome. How will we do this, right? So with that comes our first agile terminology in planning, which is user story. So highlight this, underline it, circle it. You will get a question about user story. So user story is actually pretty cool. This is short, simple description of the feature, right? Not from a technical perspective, but from the perspective of the person who wants this new feature. There's even a format to it. So here's the format. So as let's just say for our purposes, patient, right? I want to, right? What is it trying to do? The goal. So user, goal, and benefit. So that is the format of the user story. So here's an example. As a diabetic patient, I want to view my glucose trends over time so that, what's the benefit? I can better manage my diet and medication, right? So for the user story, there are three components to the story. You have the type of user, you have the goal, and you have the benefit. This is why we want to do it. So go ahead and write that down, because this is one of those things that you need to commit to memory. So three parts of this short description. Let me call on Jennifer Hernandez. So Jennifer, what are
Yes.
the three parts of the user story?
Type of user, goal, and benefit.
Goal and benefit. Perfect, perfect. All right. So that's the first one. Any questions about user story before I proceed? Pretty straightforward. Good, right? Commit that to memory. You will have a question about it. All right. Now, for the different stories, you want to be able to capture how difficult, complex this feature will be. Now, in waterfall, what we do is we typically use time, schedule, duration to capture that. So if a task is Melissa, for example, if task A is 8 hours and task B is, let's say, 24 hours, which one is harder?
24-hour task.
24, that's right. So that's for waterfall. That's usually how we capture how complex a task is. For agile, we have this thing called story points. Now, what story points tries to do is it tries to capture how hard is it. And here's an example. So, Eliseo, if I tell you that you're going to be walking on the beach for, let's say, a mile, that's scenario A, right? You with me?
Beach, sandy beach, water beach, walking. Am I wearing army boots, sandals?
Let's just say Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach, just barefoot. We'll throw in a dog for good measure.
The
So
dog with me.
that's scenario A. So 1 mile on the beach. Scenario B is 1 mile, but let's say up a mountain, right? 1 mile up a mountain. And scenario C is 1 mile up a mountain and 3 feet of snow, right? So
Is the
notice
beach?
that
Go ahead.
all
I'm
three
sorry.
scenarios, right? What do they have in common?
Walking,
Walking, sure. And the distance is
mile.
a mile, right? However, in terms of effort, which one is the easiest?
Well, the beach.
Beach. Which one is the second hardest?
Up the mountain, then up the mountain with snow.
Up the mountain with snow. So
There's the beach on the other side.
there's a beach. Yes. That's the vision. That's the vision. There's a
That's the
beach on the
vision.
other side. So to keep you going. So the reason we use points, story points, so that we can capture, right, how difficult it is. Because just saying walking a mile doesn't really capture how hard it will be. So what we try to do is assign different points. So let's say, for example, password reset is 1 point, lab system integration is 8 points. And so the points captures how difficult it would be to finish this certain feature. So for the test, the higher the story points, the more complex, right? It will be the more effort that's needed to complete that feature. Okay. So, and there are different ways of doing the story points, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. So story points. So again, we talked about user story, we talked about story points, and Chris, what's the main thing to remember about story points? The higher the points,
the more complex the work is.
absolutely. All right, next term is sprint and iteration. So this is a time box period, right? So sprints usually are 1 to 2 weeks. It can go up to 4, but usually 1 to 2 weeks, right? And during this specific, when we say time box, it's because we try to fit everything within that 1 week or 2 weeks, right? So in that time box, how much work, right, can we complete, right? So it's a time box period, and we assign the work that needs to be done in that period. So this aligns with what PMBOK 7 when it talks about delivering value incrementally. So instead of trying to do, let's say, let's talk about, let's say, so the login functionality, right? So let's say it takes about a week to do the login functionality. So within that week, you list out all the different tasks that needs to happen for you to be able to finish that login functionality, right? So what the sprint does is it really focuses the team as to what is it that we need to get done, in this case, by Friday, right? So everyone's focus for this group, for the developers, is to work on the login functionality, right? So that's sprint number one. Sprint number two, for example, could be the appointment scheduling. So after one, sprint number two, all of our focus goes to appointment scheduling for that specific team. It's a great way of keeping your developers and programmers really focused and organized. So I was involved in this project. This was for Stanford, and we had to move more than 40,000 web pages onto a single platform. In this case, it was Adobe. And as you can imagine, the CEO of Stanford Children was on this project like white on rice. He was just like fixated on it because guess what? In those 40,000 web pages were all the doctor's offices, right? Or all of the centers. It truly is, you know, your web pages are your digital front doors, right? To the services of the hospital. So if you get that wrong and people can't get in, people can't make appointments, you can imagine the stress and chaos that this would bring. So what we ended up doing is uh, as we were doing the cutoff, um, we had tasks that were about 5 to 7 minutes each. And we ran this in a, command center style. And we had folks from all over the country. It was a big project. Core team was about maybe 80 developers working on it. And it took us months to put together the actual cutover plan. And so by the time we got to it, it was amazing to watch because you had task number one, let's say Nick, he's going to enable this part of the code for login. And as soon as Nick is done with that, he's going to raise his hand. And we all have, the spreadsheet in front of us up on the screen. And as soon as Nick is done, he would put a check mark on his task. And then Cinderella would be the next person underneath, and she would pick it up from there. And let's say that she would authenticate or check the connection, whatever it is. And Cinderella, when you're done, you would say done, put the check mark. It would go to Kelly, so on and so forth. We had close to maybe 400 line items on this thing. It was it was it was so intense, but at the same time so exhilarating as you're seeing, the dominoes like turning from, and we color coded it too. So once an item, so before an item is touched, it's white. As it's completed, it turns green. And if there's an issue, yellow. And obviously if, we're screwed, it's red. So you're seeing this spreadsheet in front of you just start to change color. And as we were getting towards the middle, we're all like, we might be able to pull this off. And true enough, we were able to do it. And it was the fastest Adobe cutover ever. And it took months and months and months to put that plan together. And before we even got to that plan, we used the same approach for running our sprints and iterations. And we were vigilant about not having new user stories pop in during that freeze. Remember we talked about freeze last week where there's the blackout, no new features. And it was hard because you have, you have surgeons who, I want to add this, or I just noticed this on my site and I don't want that. And explaining to them that we're in the freeze mode, can't make changes because we're in this crucial point. Um, it was really hard, but at the same time, that fidelity to this is the sprint, this is what we're working on. If something comes up, capture it in a parking lot somewhere, but we're not making any changes unless, of course, it's safety or there's an error. But we're just gonna finish what's in our sprint, and that allowed us to get through this project in an insane timeline. It was, I think, all in all, it was about like the actual fingers to keyboard was about 10 weeks. It was just insane. But because we really stuck with the sprint planning, really stuck with the iteration and really thought through. So here's the other thing. You want to make sure that what you're putting in your sprint is realistic. There's a tendency for project managers and the team as well to be too optimistic about what can be done in 1 week or 2 weeks. And what happens is you get to the end of, that first Friday or second Friday, and you're only halfway through or 60%. What happens to the morale of the team if every sprint, right? Right, Cinderella? You start feeling deflated. So as the project manager, it's incumbent upon you to say, guys, this is amazing. I love the enthusiasm, but what can we really complete in this time frame? And let's be honest with that. And this is where the story points come in. Then you can say, hey, last week we had about 40 story points and we got halfway through. This sprint, we're looking at 20 story points. Maybe we should stop there, right? Because uh, you know, it's better to be realistic, complete it, and then move on to the next versus having a ton of backlog. Because now remember, if you don't finish it in, let's say, sprint number 3, that creeps into sprint number 4, right? Because you have to finish it. So it's it's very demoralizing when you aren't able to complete the sprints and now your team has to start working on a different sprint. So for the test and also in real life, make sure that you're very honest with yourself and with the team as to what can be completed in that time box. All right. So now execution, right? Let's build it. So have you guys heard of the daily scrum, that term used? Like we're doing daily scrum. Okay, so that's fine, Lisette. So daily scrum is the same as a daily stand-up, which is a 15-minute, right? So this truly is a physical event if you're in person, or you're all standing around. You're all standing, usually in a circle, right, for 15 minutes. And the purpose of this is to quickly go over what the plan is for the day. So as we go around, Francisco, for example, you'll say, for today, my main task is to complete login credentials, right? And I'm going to need Nikki's help. And potential barriers might be Kelly is leaving early and I need someone to double check security. That's it, right? What you're going to do, or you're going to do it with, and if there's any potential barriers. So for those 3 things, that's all you want. And then we kind of go around the room. And this is very important because it makes it super clear what is it that you're trying to do for the day. I like to call this the daily rocks. So what are 2 to 3 things that if you complete today, you would say that today was a productive day, right? So make it super easy, easy to articulate, and also easy to know if you didn't meet it, right? So what you're doing, where you're doing it with, and any blockers. So that's the daily stand-up.
So
Any
what if
questions?
it's more than three? If it's 3 days, gotta do it with it.
You can do 4, but again, it goes back to if there's like more than 3, see if you can roll it up, right? Maybe you're talking too granular, and we call it pebbles or stones. See if you can roll it up into your 3 big rocks. So, but yes, you can do 4. So that's the daily stand up. So again, the terms that we've covered so far for Agile: vision, charter, product backlog, user story, story points, the sprint and iteration, sprint planning, daily stand up. And now let's do Kanban board, and then we'll take a 10-minute break. So Kanban board, have you guys seen Trello? You familiar with that tool?
Yes, I use it. We have it free for UCLA employees. If
Oh, there you go.
they know about that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to check out Trello. It's one of my personal favorite tools because it's a board. And before, Trello, you literally have sticky notes. So Lizette, imagine you have different columns on a physical board. And so the first column is not started, right? That's where all of your sticky notes live, right? In the beginning. And then from not started, you go to in progress, right? And from in progress, let's say the next one is QA or audit. And then the last one is done, right? So the goal is for all of these sticky notes to go from not started to done. It's a beautiful representation of where the work is, and anyone passing through that Kanban board can quickly look at, how we're doing, right? And if a lot of the sticky notes are in the middle of the board, that means that we're, in execution, we're working on things. If most of them are in the not started, that means that, we're just kicking it off. Or if a lot of them are in the completed, that means we're in the tail end of the project. So that's the Kanban board. Trello is a great tool, but you can truly use like physical sticky notes as well.
How do you spell it? Trollo, Trollo?
Oh, Trello.
Oh, Trello.
Yeah, check it out. UCLA has it, and we can you can definitely use it. So
Thank you.
no worries. Yeah, it's super cool. All right, so let's take a quick 10-minute. Let's. Oh,
Ian,
Mike,
or,
yes, please.
trying to get off hold. So Trello is a tool that is a Kanban board, but for those people who have UPlan, UPlan has an embedded Trello board in it as well. It's not Trello, the named product, but it's the same functionality. So if you want to look at it inside UPlan, it's also there.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yes.
No.
So,
Yeah, our team uses that, but not through UC or we just created our own.
I think we use the
Oh.
Kanban board. Yeah.
Are you guys using UPlan by chance?
No, but we should
No.
be.
There
Yeah.
you go. So, Mike.
That's a great resource. Thank you.
And you should, yes.
That's right. Mike and I have been rolling out UPlan since 2018-ish. So we'd love, Lisette, to have a follow-up conversation and for you guys to take advantage of all the cool features of UPlan, including the Kanban board, which is there as well. So cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So Pete, perfect timing. We're gonna go on a break, my friend. We'll come back in 10 minutes. So 11:12. See you guys in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Ian, did anybody give you your friendly reminder to do your recording?
I pretended to be you, Pete.
Good job.
I channeled my inner Pete.
There
And
you
I
go.
said, Ian, please hit record. So
Good job. Okay. Bye. See you soon.
thanks, Pete. All right, see you guys in a All right. Let's jump back in here. And Pete, what we're doing is I carved out and created a different document, a Word document that I'll share with you guys as we go on break to capture the different agile terminologies in such a way that I'm hoping that you understand not just the terminology, but how it relates to the other agile principles. So what I did is created this kind of a day in the life of an agile project, starting with initiation. So we covered vision, project charter, what's the product backlog. Then we went into planning, user story, story points, sprint and iteration, sprint planning, and right now we're in execution. We just finished talking about the Kanban, and we're going to jump into the MVP. So I'm hoping that, the connective tissue amongst the ideas will hopefully make it easier to remember for the test. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
yeah. Yeah, if you don't use these terms every day, it's easy to get them all kind of mixed up and as Mike likes to say, just because you're not using a process doesn't mean that you're doing agile. So I love that quote. There's there's a lot more to agile than just winging it, which is kind of really the opposite. We're not winging it, we're being very intentional as to what we're delivering, over short periods of time. So awesome. It seems like we have everyone back. So guys, before I proceed, how are we doing so far with these agile terminologies? Doing okay? And again, we're going to be hitting up on these terms all throughout because PMI is putting a really heavy focus on agile. And Mike and I have been talking about for a little bit now of creating an agile focused training. So maybe FY 2026, we might be able to provide that. So you guys are welcome to join that because it really is a separate beast in and of itself. Here we're just skimming, the surface of it. So we're hoping to provide that for you guys here in the very near future. So, all right. So we talked about Kanban, which is that visual representation. And for those of you who don't have UPlan, aren't using UPlan yet, please let myself and Mike know so we can have a follow-up conversation with your leadership team. It's been embedded in a lot of the different departments in UCLA and across the UC system. So I'd be more than happy to see how we can um, implement this. And Mike, you're closer to this to me now in terms of who all is using it at UCLA. Love to take a couple of minutes to give people an understanding about UPlan and where we are now.
Oh, goodness. So everyone within UHIT is using it. FPG has a couple of groups on it. PDC is fully dependent upon it. Performance improvement has some touches around the edges of it, and we still are talking about doing something more meaningful. The big data team is using it. Materials management is using it.
Executive recruiting, right?
Pardon me?
Executive recruiting.
Executive recruiting and HR. Parts of our academic side are using them in the Department of Medicine. It's kind of sprinkled throughout a lot of different groups, and then we have ambulatory nursing is also using it. So I think UCLA has including view licenses, roughly 50,000 users. But not everyone is actively using the tool. But everyone basically who has a MedNet address has the ability to look at the tool if they know what they're looking at. And each group that needs it, we just need to know the group and do whatever configuration they need to make it work for them.
Thanks, Mike. So if your department isn't using it, or maybe use it a little bit, but hasn't been using it as much, let us know. We'd love to see how we can make this available for you. And it also has the Kanban board. So
as a bonus, it comes
That's
with
right.
the Kanban board.
if you order right now, awesome. So moving on to MVP, minimum viable product. So again, we talked about Agile trying to move fast and provide value in the shortest time period possible. And oh, Cinderella. Yes. So thank you so much. Cinderella, if you don't mind shooting an email to myself and Mike so we have it in the queue and we don't lose track of it, that'd be great. Thank you so much. So an MVP, as the name suggests, is a set of features that the customer can start using right away. It's not fully fleshed out, but it's just enough to give for them to give us feedback. So the goal of the MVP isn't to roll it out as a finished product. The goal is to get feedback, right? So, Carol, what is the goal for an MVP?
The goal for an MVP would be, I would say
So obtain customer feedback. Yes, correct. So we expect the MVP to have issues. We expect it to not be fully fleshed out. We expect the user to say, can it do this? Can it do that? What we want to hear from the customer is that you guys are going in the right direction, right? That's the main thing. You're going in the right direction. Keep at it. So for example, just sticking with our patient portal example, if they're able to log in, right? So that's good enough. That is a feature that we can say, hey, Pete, can you log in and see if you can get in? And if Pete can get in and he sees the screens, now he's trying to click on the other stuff. Like, oh, I can't do scheduling yet. No, that's fine. That's fine. We're not there yet. I just want to make sure that you can log in now. And then we're going to go with patient scheduling next, right? So, so log in, check. Now we're going to do patient scheduling, which perfectly ties into incremental delivery, right? So let's say the project is a 6-month project. And we say, let's say, for example, month 1, we can do the scheduling, appointment scheduling. So let's fast forward, end of month 1, we ask Pete to go in again. He can log in. He can click on appointment scheduling. He can request, an appointment with his PCP. But he starts clicking on labs and that's not working yet. And that is completely fine, right? So we want to make sure that we're delivering incremental value as we go along. So the biggest difference between Agile and Waterfall is, for the most part, Waterfall completes everything, then you go live, and then it has all the nice features. Here in Agile, you can think of it as multiple go lives as you go along, right? So month 1, we're live with appointment scheduling, right? Month 2, we're live with the lab. Month 3, we're live with secure messaging. Does that make sense? See some nods? Okay. So that's incremental delivery. So now we're in the process of executing. So now we have our QA feature, which is the review and adapt, right? How are we doing and what do we do next? So we have a sprint review. again, remember, at the end of that 2 weeks, 1 week or 2 weeks, you look back and say, hey, how do we do? Right? Did we complete all of the backlog that we said we were going to complete? If so, great. If not, where did we made a mistake, or what can we fix? And a lot of times it's this guy. Let me go back up. It's this. Story points. So if you find yourself not completing the work within those sprints, it's probably because you underestimated how complex, how difficult, how much time it would take for those features to be completed. So make sure that, again, be very honest with the story points and be very honest with how much you can complete in that given sprint. All right. So sprint review is an informal, right, review. A retrospective, on the other hand, this is more of a formal review. So if you want to look at the difference between the two, sprint review is like, hey, how do we do? A retrospective, this is more formal. So again, if you guys remember from waterfall, what is the equivalent of retrospective in waterfall? What's the term that we use for it?
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Yep, absolutely. All right. If you used Agile before, you probably heard of this term backlog refinement, or they call it grooming. So this is where you're looking at the work that still needs to be done, and you're looking at, how you're prioritizing that backlog. So grooming is very important, because one of the main things for your backlog is not just putting everything in this list, it's also about prioritizing, or in healthcare, we call it triaging, right? So which one is the most important thing to do? And again, what can we complete in a specific sprint? So that's the execution and the Q&A. Now we're almost done. We're at the closeout, or wrapping it up. So here, you want to look at compliance requirements, right? So did we meet policy and procedures, regulations, standards? Did we meet the quality controls, measures that we set out to do, right? So is it according to spec, right? According to specifications. After we do that, we do a knowledge transfer. Ooh, all right. Who remembers the 3 types of knowledge transfers from our first class? Who wants to give it a step? You don't need to remember all 3, but there are 3 types of knowledge transfers.
I'll give it a shot. Within a team to another team across another project team? Or
Absolutely.
am I on my own planet over here?
Nope. So the first one is within your team, right? So let's say you're in the same team as Richard and Carol and Cinderella. You're sharing that with the group, that immediate group. So that's internal to your team. The next one is across the teams within the project, right? So let's say the security team or integration team. And the last one is for, this is more, if you look at it from a timeline perspective, you're ahead. You're done, and you're sharing this knowledge with someone else that might be doing this in the future. So let's say it's an Epic upgrade, and we completed ours in June, and let's say that UCSF is about to do theirs, so they're going to complete it, say, in September. Sharing those lessons to them is the third example. So this is for a totally different group outside of your project team that might benefit from the lessons learned. So first one, within your team, intra. The second is across teams. And the third one is a different project altogether. So good job, Pete. And project closure. So this is the formal completion, right? So this is when we get the formal acceptance from the stakeholders, like, hey, what do you think about it? This is when they sign off on things. This is when you finish all of the invoicing. This is where you also hand it over to operations. So we're done with the project, it's up and running. Now we do the handoff to support, right? So before I move forward, that was a lot. Any questions so far? And again, don't need to master it right now. For today, the goal is to just familiarize yourself with the terms. And I also created this table for those of you who prefer tables. So everything we covered is in this table format here. All the different definitions. And I want to talk a little bit about the frameworks, because you probably heard of Scrum. We talked about Kanban. You probably heard of Lean. So these are all different frameworks underneath Agile. Think of Agile as the big umbrella, and underneath that umbrella, you have different frameworks, and each framework has different focus, key roles, artifacts, and what is it best for. So Scrum, for example, we talked about the iterative process. This is where you have the sprints, 1 to 2 weeks. You have the different roles, different artifacts, and here's what it's best for: complex projects where you want to break it down into bite-sized pieces. Kanban, this focuses more on the visual representation. Again, this is like the board that has not started, in progress, QA, and done or completed. Those columns are customizable, of course, what makes sense for you. Extreme programming. I really want to meet the person that called their framework extreme programming. I don't know what extreme programming really means, but it's just programming, and it's more for software developers. And one of the things we'll talk about is extreme programming metaphors. And what it is using an example that people can understand better. For example, a patient portal, right? Instead of saying we're building out a patient portal, a nice metaphor might be we're building out maybe a virtual front desk for you that has different cabinets, and each cabinet has a different feature. So you'll see that later when we get to extreme programming. But needless to say, extreme programming is one of those frameworks that programmers use under the Agile umbrella. And the last one is Lean. So Lean, the focus of Lean is to eliminate waste, right? So anything that's not needed, we make sure that we're not just making things for the sake of making it. We take out a lot of the waste. I know Elon is not a popular person right now, but he has a quote that I really like, which is the best part is no part, right? If you can do it in 5 parts versus 10, 2 versus 5, and if you actually don't need the part, that's the best part. So no part is best part. So that is the focus of Lean. That was a lot that we covered. And I hope that this gives you, again, my goal is always 80%. You're an 80% understanding of what Agile is, and we'll fill in the 20% as we go along in the subsequent weeks. So I will email this to you, and I'll ask Michelle to put it in the classroom as well. Any questions before I move back to our handy dandy slides?
I really appreciate this format, Ian. Thank you.
Oh, was that Curlin?
Yes, I think it's very helpful.
Thank you. That makes me feel good because I looked at the clock. It was 1:30, and I was like, okay, probably need to sleep now. Yeah, I was really thinking about like how do I explain this to someone who's never heard of it, right? Again, that man on the street philosophy. And and this was the best way I could come up with. So thank you, Carlin, for saying that.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, so let me go back to our slide deck. All right. So actually, let me go back a few more slides up. All right, Jenny is back. Jenny, give me a summary of, I'm kidding. You don't need to give a summary.
I was
Um,
ready.
oh, you're ready. Oh,
I
okay.
was like, okay, what do you need?
I'll call on you in a little bit here. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. So we talked about kickoff, right? This is where we gather everyone, get the team excited, and oh, now you might have an idea of these topics. So actually, Jenny, let's start with user story. Do you remember the three components of a user story?
I wrote it down.
Yeah, open notes.
Okay. Um,
The first one is, there's three, right? The first one is, starts with an R. You can call a friend if you can't find your notes. Call on anyone else in the class.
another Jennifer, whichever one.
Another. So the other Jennifer, tell us.
One was goal, but I don't remember the one with the
That was
R.
the second one. That was the second one. What's the first one?
Was it an R? I thought it was just type
I
of
thought it
user.
was type of
user, yeah.
Type of user.
Yes, so type of user or role, right?
Oh, role.
Roll.
Okay.
Oh, I see. I was
And
like,
then
I
where's the
wrote type
R
of
coming
user
from?
too, so I was like,
The
yeah,
role, like
and then
I'm
benefit,
a
right?
patient, I'm a pedestrian, I'm a traveler. So what is your role? And the second one is, oh, we said it already, right? Goal. And what's
Goal.
the third one?
goal.
Benefit?
Benefits.
Benefit. So give me an example of a simple user story. Let me pick on Nick. So let's say, for example, patient portal. Yeah, let's stick with that. So patient portal was a simple user story related to patient portal.
So you could say the who would be a patient.
I'm a patient. Okay.
I'm a patient.
All right.
And then for you could say that they're wanting to look at their appointments.
Okay, that's the goal.
That's the goal. And then
the benefit would be
the benefit would be that they could see all of their appointments without having to call and get information, or they can also add it to their calendar.
perfect. So Kelly, let's stick with patient portal, and this time it's viewing labs. So give me a user story around that.
Is this for me or for the other Kelly?
Let's do the other Kelly since we're already calling you earlier.
So I had to step away earlier,
No
but
worries.
I'll just follow Nick's example. So I guess the
Yes,
who would be I, the patient. And you said, what was it that they're trying to do with labs?
labs. Yeah.
Okay. The goal is to
View
view
labs.
labs,
Yes.
and the benefit, I would say it's the same, like access to their care without having to call the office.
There
So
we
saving
go.
time. Yeah.
Yes. So Ebenezer. So what are the three components of a user story?
Third component would be type of user, the
Also
goal,
known as
the role,
role. Yep.
and then we have the goal, and then the benefit. Hello?
Oh, I think Ian froze.
Oh. I thought I froze for a minute.
No, you're good.
Me
Ian,
too.
Doug.
And you got it right.
Yeah, you did get
It was correct.
Maybe he's taking a nap.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Logged on accidentally.
Sorry, guys, my Wi-Fi dropped here. So I was talking about the three components, which is role, goal, and benefits. All right. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Perfect. All right. Estimation of effort. So here we want to capture not just the duration, but also starts with a C.
Complexity?
Complexity.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely right. Complexity. Yes, yes, ma'am. And prioritization planning. So as we're looking at the backlog, right, of the things we need to do, we have to prioritize which comes first. So, and that will lead us to our initial product backlog, which is the list of features, functionalities that we need to build. So think of your backlog as items we need to do. So iteration planning. So before you jump into the sprint, you want to make sure that we plan it out, right? What are the things that we can accomplish in the 2 weeks? What are the user stories? And what are the points that we assign to it? And what is the most common mistake that teams do in iteration planning or sprint planning?
They're not realistic.
They're not realistic. Are they more optimistic or pessimistic about what they can do?
Optimistic.
Optimistic, right? They book more than what they can accomplish, right? So they're more on the optimistic side. Yep. All right, we talked about sprint time box, right? So usually 1 to 2 weeks. Sprint planning meeting, this is where you figure out the work that needs to be done. And Scrum is an example of an agile framework. Sweta, give me another agile framework. We just talked about it in the Word document towards the end. So Scrum is one of them. The other one starts with K.
Kanban.
Kanban. All right. You're off the hook. Jennifer Ng, what's the other framework? So we talked about Scrum, talked about Kanban. There's two more.
I don't remember.
That's okay. That's okay. One of them has to do with eliminating waste.
Is that the one that Elon likes? Extreme something?
Lean.
No, the one underneath it.
Oh,
The one is
lean.
extreme programming. Yeah. So the one that Elon likes is lean. So the best part is no part. So lean is more about eliminating waste. So all right, Nikki, take us home. What are the 4 agile frameworks?
Lean, extreme, programming, Scrum.
That's the same. Yep.
I'm sorry. Scrum, Kanban, and I don't know the other.
You named it. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got it. Lean.
Okay.
Let's start from the top. So the first one is a Scrum, right? And one underneath it is Kanban, and then extreme programming, and the last one is eliminating waste.
Lean.
Lean. There we go. Thanks, Nikki. All right. Other agile terminologies. Daily stand-ups, also known as the daily Jasmine. Daily stand-ups, also known as a daily, starts with an S.
Wait, can you repeat the question? It starts with an S.
So we're just going over the different terminologies in Agile. So one of them is called daily stand-ups. This is the 10 to 15-minute daily meeting in the beginning of the day. And this is also known as a daily, also starts with the letter S.
It's not the daily scrum.
That
Oh, it is.
it is.
It is
So
the daily scrum.
it
Okay.
is the daily scrum. So another term for daily scrum is daily
Stand-ups.
stand-ups. Thank you. All right, and sprint review. This is at the end of every iteration. We look at what we completed. And a formal review is called a sprint. Anyone? Starts with an R.
Or retrospective?
Retrospective. And in waterfall, this is called
Lessons learned.
lessons learned. Thank you. All right. And this is a task board. This task board, a synonym for this starts with a K. Kanban. So Lizette, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you have, to do and work in progress or done. So this is just an example. Awesome. Consensus. All right, switching gears here a little bit. Now we're talking about different ways of reaching consensus. So this is a collaborative process to reach a decision that everyone can support. So different types. You guys remember this from our class last week, Fist of 5, where you can show not just agreement or disagreement, but the level, right? So you do like 4 or 3 or 2, like I agree, but 2 out of 5. Roman voting is just a simple thumbs up, thumbs down, and sideways for neutral. Polling, everyone knows what polling is. Who remembers dot voting? You guys remember it from last week?
Would that be similar to like you have a column of something and then I know I did this before, but it was with Post-its. And
Yes. Absolutely.
and you can put the color of the Post-it where you want it. So the column that had the most dots in this case would be the unanimous decision.
Absolutely. Yes. So let's say that everyone gets 10 Post-it notes or 10 dots. And let's say we have, 10 projects. So you can either spread it out, one Post-it for each project, or if there's a project you really absolutely love, you can put all of your chips, if you will, on that one project. And at the end, we're going to count who has the most. And that's how we do dot voting. All right. Estimation techniques. Remember, we talked about story points, right? Which includes not just how long it takes, but also how complex it is. And one way of doing it, a fun way, is called planning poker. So how this works is, first of all, let's say that you have, so Chris, let's say Chris is the facilitator, and Chris has Kelly, Curlin, Kenny, and Richard around the table. And so let's say, for example, so just sticking with our patient portal example, putting in the labs feature, right? So where patients can access their labs or even, request to have lab works done. So the question is, how many points should we assign to this, right? And so if Chris were to just blurt that out, then the person with the loudest voice might unduly influence everyone else, right? So if Kelly just says, "Oh, I think that's 8 points," and then Curlin might just say, "Oh, sure, 8 points, I guess." So the purpose of planning poker is for people to have different card numbers at their disposal, different cards. So let's just say everyone has a 3, a 5, an 8, right? And let's say a king or a queen. And then, Okay, so for the lab, how many points do you think this would be? So we have the different numbers. And Chris, you would say, okay, on one, right? 3, 2, 1. You put the card on the table, and Kelly might say 8, Curlin might say 5, so on and so forth. And then after seeing all of that, you do it again and say, okay, now that you know what everyone else is thinking, just do it again until we can get to a decision as to, we're going to call this a 5 or an 8. So the purpose of it is for people to vote without undue influence of someone else. Does that make sense? So it's a fun way of using cards to do the voting system. Now, since, complexity isn't linear, one of the ways that you can do this is by using what's called a Fibonacci sequence. Has anyone heard of this? Fibonacci? So this is a way of looking at a sequence of numbers. It's usually you add the number before it. So I'll give an example. So I'll put it in the chat. Might be easier. So Fibonacci would be like 1, 2, 3. So you add the previous number. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5.
5.
5 plus 3 is
8.
8,
8. 8 plus 5 is
13.
13.
13. Okay, so if you look in the chat, that's a simple example of a Fibonacci sequence, right? So that the complexity isn't linear, it kind of jumps. So if you think it's a 3, let's say that the user login, that's a 3, right? And let's say that the appointment scheduling is a 5, and let's say that the lab, booking lab and also retrieving lab is an 8, so on and so forth. So it's a better way of capturing complexity. It's a better way of assigning story points. So Fibonacci is simply adding the two numbers before the number. So 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, so on and so forth. And you can see this in nature. So if you look at, let's say, a coral, you can see the sequence. If you look at the shape of a solar system, you see the sequence. And if you were to calculate, the degrees by which it opens up, for example, on the screen here, it follows the Fibonacci sequence. So if you're a fan of Dan Brown, that was all over his Da Vinci Code book that he wrote. All right. So XP metaphor, remember what does XP stand for? This was one of the agile frameworks. Extreme programming. Yes. And a metaphor is just, a visualization technique. So for example, instead of saying we're creating a patient portal and just dive into the features of a patient portal, you can say we're creating a patient portal, and what that is like walking into let's say a library, and in the library there are different shelves, and each shelf has a different information stored in it. So you're trying to use a metaphor that people who are non-technical can understand, so they have an idea of what is it that you're trying to build. So this is the technical folks attempt to communicate with non-technical people through storytelling. So that's what an XP metaphor is. All right. Another way of explaining things, and as you can see, we spend a lot of time in Agile trying to explain things, right? Trying to explain how things look, the features, the benefits. And another way of doing it is called product box collaboration. So as seen here in the picture, there's a box of, I don't know, maybe that's cereal. And the goal is to describe what you're working on, right? Either the product feature by using the product box collaboration. So I'll give an example. So let's say Edward.
Yes.
Edward copy. So Edward, I've never worked on a patient portal before. And we're talking about secure patient login. Can you describe what that means for me? I've barely used my computer. I still have my AOL email address. So what is secure login?
Are you asking me what I think a secure login is, or are you
Yes, so
asking?
you're trying to explain it to someone like me who is non-technical, has never logged into a patient portal before. How would you explain it?
It's a way of ensuring that you have authentication. So it could be multi-factor. There's a number of ways to do that, but it's essentially just trying to prove that it's you that's logging in and not some nefarious actor.
Okay, so that second part of your explanation is the one that will resonate for a non-technical person, right? Because multi-factor authentication, that wouldn't mean anything to someone that's not technical, but the second part does, which is we're making sure that it's really you so that, we're not giving your information away to someone else. So that's an example of product box explanation. We're just really trying to explain things as simple as possible, just as if you were pulling, a cereal box in the grocery and trying to explain what it is. Like here's Cheerios. This is a breakfast cereal that goes well with milk, for example. So very layman's term, very easy to understand. All right. Almost there. So reach consensus and support the outcome of parties' agreement. So we talked earlier about putting together the charter, the project charter, and with that high-level team charter, which, as I mentioned earlier, you would have a breakout session with the team to specify, okay, so how often do we meet? How do we handle disagreements? How do we vote? How do we when do we schedule our sprint planning? How do we make sure that we don't overestimate what we can do in those sprint planning? All of that can be captured in your team charter, and it's always good to bring that up at the beginning of the project. And what happens if we all can't agree? What's our escalation point, right? Who's the tiebreaker? Do we call Alicia? Is she the one that helps us figure this out? You want to have these processes verified, put together before you get into certain disagreements, not after, because then, emotions are high and, it's much easier to have a way to agree to disagree before you actually get into these types of disagreements. And so things that you can do, we went through a lot today. These are just examples of things that you can do on Monday. I really want you guys we talked about the project vision. I'm really excited for you guys to take a look at the projects you're working on or will be working on or have completed. And for next week, I'd love for you guys to share a little bit about your product vision, and let's see if we can understand and relate to what is it that you're either working on or have worked on in the past. And we won't go into all of this today, but I also added these terminologies for you in addition to that document. So you have this too in the slide. So this is already in your Google Classroom. So you can refer back to it later on. So, all right. So that completes module 1. Now, okay, Carolyn, no worries, Carolyn. Thanks for letting me know. So, when we come back, we're going to jump into module 2. Module 2 talks a lot about agile, hybrid, waterfall, and we're going to go a little bit faster since we spent a lot of time covering agile this morning. So before we part ways for lunch, let's do a quick retrospective. How was this morning? What stood out for you guys? Anything that you didn't know before we started that you're now more familiar with?
It was the user's story. I said the role, the goal, and benefit.
Nice. Awesome. Anything else before we go? Doing okay? Not too fast, not too slow? Just right? Perfect. Awesome. With Cinderella's thumbs up, we will now go into break, and I'll see you guys at 2. And hopefully we'll complete most of module 2, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.